Olympic Park, Beijing, China.
Scene of heroic sports performances, world records, and glittering prizes.
Where opportunities are seized and reputations forged.
For Formula E, its moment is here, and history beckons.
Good morning everybody and welcome to Beijing for the first ever FIA Formula E qualifying session ahead of the first race of the season here in China. After months of testing, it's time for the first session in the history of Formula E that really matters, the session that will decide the grid for this afternoon's race. My name is Jack Nichols. Alongside me in the commentary box is Dario Franchitti, and down in the pit lane we have Nicky Shields. The way this qualifying session will work is that the 20 drivers will go out onto the circuit in 4 batches, all in groups of 5 cars. They'll have 10 minutes out on the circuit to set the quickest lap time they can, and the overall quickest lap time will start on pole position. It's so on a tight street circuit, we don't get too bogged down with traffic and cars getting in the way of each other. We're here in Beijing around the Olympic Park on this 3.5 kilometer circuit that goes around the bird's nest. It goes around the aquatic center here as well, and you can see it's punctuated by many chicanes, 90-degree corners as well. It really is a challenging circuit that the drivers are having to deal with. The first round of the season taking place here in China, the capital, Beijing, and just 20 minutes from the center of Tiananmen Square in the Forbidden City, we're here in the Olympic Park that hosted the 2008 Olympic Games. Turn 1, a 90-degree right-hander, turn 2, a 90-degree left-hander, then we head up towards the far point of the circuit, a number of chicanes, but they're all a bit different. They've all got their own sort of character as we then come back around the bird's nest out towards the final left-hand hairpin and across the line. 3.5 kilometers long, and it has provided us with some exciting action so far in the free practice sessions we've had. As I say, alongside me in the commentary box is a 3-time Indianapolis 500 winner, Dario Franchitti. And Dario, we've seen 2 free practice sessions so far today, and they've been full of incident and full of drivers trying to find the limits of this track.
Yeah, absolutely, we definitely saw more incident in that second session there, and guys just pushing the limits, getting ready for qualifying there, and we're going to see that continue to ratchet up here in qualifying.
These are the highlights from the second free practice session that we had not that long ago, actually. There's Ho Pin Tung. He is in for Team China Racing, and he will be the home hero, but his free practice didn't go quite according to plan. We'll get onto that in a few moments. Lucas de Grassi, there in the Apt car, was the quickest man out in the early stages. Sebastian Buemi, many people's favourite for the title, really, ended up in the wall on his first flying lap, and that meant he was out of the session for the remainder of the 30 minutes, which is really going to compromise his running coming into the qualifying session, because he will have a distinct lack of track time, and also the teams have got to get that car fixed ahead of the race, which is coming up in just over 4 hours' time. Bruno Senna was frustrated out on circuit as he dealt with some traffic with cars running at different power mappings, meaning some were going quicker than others, and it's really difficult on a tight street circuit like this to find the space that you really need. But Bruno Senna was ultimately the quickest man, setting a very impressive lap time, and he will go in full of confidence. Ho Pin Tung was pushing hard in the China Racing car, losing the back end there, coming out through turn 14, and then coming into turn 19, things went a little bit worse for the Chinese driver, locking up on the way in. Too much speed and into the barrier, and that was the end of his session, and also the end of the session as a whole, because it was red flagged with just a couple of minutes to go. He broke the front right suspension and the rear right suspension in that accident, and the Team China guys have got a lot of work to do. From free practice 2 then, it was Bruno Senna the quickest man, a 1 minute 41.341, 3.5 tenths of a second quicker than Lucas de Grassi. Ho Pin Tung, despite that accident, was 3rd quickest, Frank Montani 4th, and look at the amount of teams in the top 9 positions. You've got Mahindra, Apt, China, Andretti, Trulli, Virgin, Dragon and Venturi. 8 teams covering the top 9 positions. It is going to be incredibly close in this qualifying session, which is due to get underway in about 10 minutes time. There you can see Charles Pic there in 11th position in the second Andretti car, And look at Sam Bird and Sebastian Buemi, both very quick drivers, but they're down in 19th and 20th positions. Sam Bird was having troubles with his Virgin machine. Sebastian Buemi crashed out, as we saw in the very early stages. Michaela Cerruti also had an accident in the first free practice session, so she was running with only one car in second practice. And Catherine Legg and Takuma Sato continuing the struggles that Amna Naguri are finding. The pit lane full of guests and motor racing fans that have come here to see the first ever FIA Formula E race. And Dario, there was a lot of speculation, I suppose, about what these cars would look like and sound like and feel like as a motorsport spectacle. And it's been pretty entertaining so far this morning.
It's been very entertaining so far. You know, talking to the drivers, they say it feels very much like a sort of a Formula 3 car with a bit more torque, a bit less downforce. So maybe more like the chassis of a Formula Renault with a bit more torque, I guess. And they're enjoying themselves, definitely. We've seen that the track is fairly unforgiving, as street courses tend to be. So everybody's got to be on their game here. And the cars look good on track too for the spectators, especially when they're turned up in qualifying trim, and you can see the all that torque, and they're getting a bit sideways out the corners, moving around a lot, which is great to see.
They're riding the curves at the chicanes. There's certain bumps in the circuit that send the cars almost into the air. They're getting the back end out as well as they try and deal with the torque out of the corners. They've also got regenerative braking on these cars, which takes the energy from the rear brakes under braking and reuses it, puts it back into the battery so you can get more power going again, and that is causing a challenge for the drivers. There's Karun Chandok getting ready because he's going to be out in the first of the 4 qualifying segments. It'll be Karun Chandok for Mahindra, Oriol Servia for Dragon, Jarno Trulli for the Trulli team, and his teammate Michaela Cerruti, and Stefan Sarazan for Venturi. They're going to be the first 5 cars to take to the circuit for 10 minutes, and they will try and set the fastest lap time they can. But going out in the first session, not ideal on a street circuit. No,
distinct disadvantage, absolutely. And to counter that, the guys in that last group are going to be at a big advantage. You know, Senna obviously was fast today and in the last group, so he's looking quite good. But what they're saying is it doesn't so much rubber in as a track would with slick tyres, but it cleans up, and the track was quite dirty yesterday, so they're finding it's cleaning up, getting a bit more grip every lap they're doing, so expect the guys in the last group to have a bit of an advantage.
So in the second free practice session, Ho Pin Tung crashed the car. Let's see from him now. He's down with Nikki.
Ho Pin Tung, can you just explain to us actually what happened out on track when you came off?
We had quite a good run in this second free practice, just focusing on qualifying. Very good in sector 2, a little bit off in the first and the third sector, so we're trying to find a little bit of time. I went a little bit too hot in turn 14, understeered, and then the rear came. Was not a really big hit, but did a lot of damage, unfortunately. So yeah, team is working really hard, as you can see, to try to fix it for the race.
Do you think the car's going to be ready in time for the race?
We hope so. There's a little bit of shortage on parts, so hopefully we'll be able to get everything right in time.
Thank you, good luck.
Great to hear from Ho Pin Tung, a very, very experienced racer, and really was a quick driver in the junior Formula in his younger years. 2007 German Formula 3 champion, one of 3 German Formula 3 champions we have in the field. Since then he's been doing all sorts, really. Did a bit of A1GP with Team China, did FIA GT1 World Championship with Team China, but here we can see the back of the car, Dario, and they're really sort of getting involved. You can see this big box here, just to the left of the word Renault. That's the battery, that big box basically full of that is the lithium-ion battery, and then we've got that goes to an inverter. The motor is that sort of grey box to the left-hand side there. Around it you've got suspension and normal sort of motor racing car elements, and then behind that would be the transmission, but it doesn't look like that's there at the moment.
It's worrying. I mean, if they've cracked the gearbox, yeah, as you said, there's parts are in short supply. If they've cracked the gearbox or broken off one of the suspension attachment points, it could be tough to get that fixed in time.
And unfortunately, the front of the car was damaged as well. The whole of the front right suspension needed redoing. And there's another driver that had dramas earlier on today, Michaela Cerruti, and she's so frustrated. She had a seemingly harmless spin, just clipped the barrier with the rear of the car. The rear wing came off, but it also did damage to the rear of the gearbox. And she's like, she was saying to me, I've never had such a big consequence from such a small brush with the barriers.
Yeah, it was just bad luck and that angle that she spun, and it just cleaned the rear wing off, and you could see at the end there was no backing plate to the gearbox when the car came back, and that could be causing all kinds of problems there. So yeah, as again, we've said it many times, typical street course, you get punished for every small error.
The medical car making its way out around this 3.5-kilometer Beijing circuit. There's the safety car as well, the I-8, as the fans will soon be told to clear the pit lane because we've got less than 5 minutes now before the qualifying session gets underway. There's one of the chicanes. This is up towards the left-hander of turn 6, where the cars turn from Tianjin West Road onto the South National Stadium Road, and there you can see the National Stadium. Pretty striking, isn't it? The bird's nest that was so iconic during the 2008 Olympic Games. Sebastian Buemi making his way out towards the back of the pack. He's out in the third group, as is his teammate Nico Prost for the Edam's team. And they are a pair of very quick drivers, and okay, they're not in the last group, but second to last is going to be a reasonably strong chance of them getting a good performance in. We've got Andretti here in the championship, and let's hear now from Michael Andretti, who's with Nicky.
Michael Andretti, team principal and team owner of Andretti. You've always said that you're in it to win it. Are you going to achieve that today?
I think we have a good shot. You know, I think our cars are pretty good. You know, we'll see what happens in qualifying, but they were pretty happy with their cars and race trim, so we'll see.
And what position would you be happy with if it wasn't necessarily a win?
First. Yeah, that's what we're here for. Yeah. If we're not first, you know, we're the first loser. So second's the first loser, so we don't want to be that.
And what do you think of the track out here in Beijing?
It's great. I think they've done a tremendous job. You know, it's amazing to see how far everything's come from the, you know, in the last year or so, and I think they've done a great job. It's great setting. I mean, so much excitement here. I mean, every seat's going to be filled here. It's great way to start off, you know, the new series.
Thanks very much.
Great to hear from Michael Andretti there. How many times have you been told that second is only the first loser?
From Mike, quite a few times actually. Yeah, I mean, he was my boss for a good few years, and you know, he's now one of the competitors. And one thing you know about Michael, he's in it to win it. As he said, he just, you know, does not mess around in the way he runs his team. I was down there talking to him earlier. He's ready to go.
Bruno Senna's not quite ready to go, not with that hat on, at least for the time being. He picked that up on the Great Wall of China on Thursday when he and Karun Chandler went up there for a bit of a look around. So just before we get this qualifying session underway in 2 minutes' time, we'll take you fully through the qualifying session. There'll be 4 10-minute segments with 5 cars in each going out, and they'll probably do 2 hot laps. We'll talk more about that in a few moments' time because of the battery management. In the first session, it'll be Karun Chandler, Oriol Servia, Jarno Trulli, Michele Giruti and Stefan Sarazan. Group 2 will be Sam Bird for Virgin, Jerome D'Ambrosio for Dragon, Charles Pic for Andretti, Takuma Sato for Amna Naguri and Hopin Tung for Team China. The third group will be Nico Prost and Sebastian Buemi for the Edam's crew. Lucas de Grassi, will be out for Abt. And Daniel Abt as well, his teammate, will be in that third group as well, with Catherine Legg in Amna Naguri. And then Group 4, theoretically the quickest group, has got some big names in it. Jaime Alguersuari, the ex-Toro Rosso racer, he's with Virgin. Bruno Senna will be racing in that group for Mahindra. Nick Heidfeld for Venturi, Frank Montani for Andretti, and Nelson Piquet Jr. out for Team China Racing. So those are the 4 groups. Strong drivers in all of them, and especially some strong drivers in that Group 4. You look at Alguersuari, you look at Senna and Frank Montani as well. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Daniel Abt will be out in the third group, and we can hear from him now. He's down in the garages with Nicky Shields.
Here with a young, talented driver, Daniel Abt. You're in Group 3. What's your strategy for the race today?
Well, first of all, we have to make the qualifying. I think it's important to have a clean run, to have the car in one piece for the race. And then, yeah, the race is going to be long. I think there's a lot of things that can happen, and I just want to make sure that I finish the race and that I have a decent result.
What are your first impressions of the track after free practice?
It's pretty nice, I have to say. It's really good fun with that car. It's tough. It's easy to hit the wall, as we saw in free practice. Many drivers went into the wall, so you have to focus, but it's really challenging, and I like it.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Daniel.
Daniel Abt, the German driver, currently racing in GP2 as well in the junior Formula after a successful season in GP3. And earlier on in the Emotion Club, the draw was made for qualifying, and they would announce a driver, and then anyone in the Emotion Club would come up and pick up a card, and that would say which draw they were then in. So there you can see how it was done and how it will be done every race in order to ensure parity, because there was no real better way of doing it than a lucky draw, because it's such an advantage to be at the end.
Yeah, exactly. How else can you do it unless you put everybody in the track at once, and then they'll just all go out and complain about traffic. So that's what I'd do anyway. Yeah, it definitely favours some people, and over a season it'll balance out.
There you can see the left-hander at turn 6, which takes them from Tianjin West Road onto the National Stadium Road, and it really is a spectacular backdrop for this first FIA Formula E race of the season and of all time. And the qualifying session will be getting underway almost imminently, and the cars will head out onto the circuit. There's the Formula EJ that's keeping everyone entertained in the crowd as well, playing the background music for the Formula E cars that are now heading out onto the circuit. So for the first time, we go green in qualifying. Here's the pit lane exit, which goes around the outside of the first corner and then feeds back in between turns 1 and turns 2. That's Karun Chandok in the red and black Mahindra car heading out first, and right up behind him is Oriol Servia, the Spaniard, in the Dragon racing machine. Dragon, a very successful IndyCar team. Mahindra are a massive Indian car manufacturer, and they do work with electric vehicles, but they've got the help of the Carlin motorsport team helping their effort. And I mean, you couldn't really think of many better teams to have on board running your car than Carlin.
No, definitely not. Trevor Carlin does a great job, and you know, a bunch of the teams have done that. They've paired up with other maybe more experienced outfits. So behind some of these names, there's teams that you're more familiar with, but that's the way to do it, absolutely. And you can see that by the performance of the Mahindra boys today already.
So they've got a 10-minute session in which to do the fastest lap they can, but because of the way the battery management works, if you just go, you can't go flat out for 10 minutes. You've got to manage it properly, and it'll be interesting to see how many laps they can get out at full power.
Yeah, it sounds like, you know, talking to people, I think you did the same, Jack. It sounds like they're going to do one quick lap, a warm-up lap, quick lap, cool down lap, quick lap again, and that's probably as much as they'll get out of the battery there. Do you choose to go at the start of the session and know you're going to get your laps in, or do you wait till the end and have the possibility of getting a red flag and not actually getting your lap in? That's the quandary they're faced with.
Absolutely, that's a very difficult challenge. Karun Chandok is under investigation. That's the message from race control. He is car number 5, making his way down now towards turn 19. In qualifying trim, they have 200 kilowatts of power available to them, which is the maximum, which is the equivalent of 270 brake horsepower. The reason Karun Chandok is under investigation is he was in the fast lane before the pit lane exit light was green.
I was going to say, it's quite impressive to get under investigation on the warm-up lap.
So he's coming now towards the left-hand final corner that brings him out onto the start-finish straight. He boots it, and let's have a go with him on this lap. And Dario, talk us through. Here we come down towards the first corner, which is going to be interesting at the start of the race.
It's very interesting. Tightens up a little bit here. You'll see up on the curve in the apex. He missed it a little bit. He went off there this morning, maybe that's why. Braking for the 90 left now, coming up over that curve, hopefully. Yep, there we go. Coming down to the first of the chicanes, coming up here in a second. See how difficult it is to see actually where that chicane is. That's going to be tough. We've got the graphic now on the screen too. Almost
hitting 180 kilometers an hour as he came into that chicane. The right-hand side bar, that is the amount of power he's using. So you'll see it go all the way up to 200 kilowatts because he's in qualifying trim. He's got 89, now 88% of battery down there in the middle. And when it drops into green, that means he's going into regen, and he's on engine map 2. So that's interesting. They've got map 2 set up as the qualifying trim. They can set the maps up to whatever they want. Now we come through the bus stop chicane and down towards the left-hander of 14. Yeah, so tight there out of 13 in that bus stop. This corner 14 opens up. Watch how much it opens up on exit. And probably the longest straight now, or curve as it is, but it'll be easy flat out. Braking for turn 16, the heaviest braking zone coming up here. Yeah, we'll see a lot of action there in the race. Watch how much it opens up here in exit. And then coming down braking in a second here for turn 19. This is where we saw Ho Pin Tung go off this morning, just locked it and took too much speed in. And again, Karun a little away from the apex. He's really having to work hard. When these cars are in their full power qualifying trim mode, they are tough to deal with.
Watch the car go airborne just there, braking for this last corner hairpin, really a lot tighter than you think. And then you'll see it step out. Oh, he managed to control the power there a wee bit better. And he'll probably now start to do a cool down lap. Not a great lap, actually.
1 minute 43.531, and the quickest time we saw in the second free practice session was inside, it was from his teammate Bruno Senna, a 141.341, as we now look at Oriol Servia coming down towards the final corner. And so in theory we should be able to go quicker than free practice 2, because the track will have cleared up a little bit, and we'll just keep getting quicker as the groups progress. Servia crosses the line to a 43.780, and maybe they're just going to use these first laps as banker laps, as it were, to make sure that you have a half-decent one on the board.
Yeah, maybe you'll take that little banker, but then you expect the full fireworks the next time. They'll be on full noise and just giving it everything they've got.
Michele Ceruti crosses the line to go third quickest. We've also got Jarno Trulli and Stefan Sarazan out there on the circuit. Those are the 5 drivers that are taking part in this first segment of qualifying. 4 segments, each with 5 drivers. The quickest time overall will claim pole position for the first ever FIA Formula E race.
This is where it's going to get interesting, though. If somebody's on a lap now and they're going to come up upon the other cars going slowly, trying to cool everything off for the next lap, that's when it's going to get interesting, and you need the guys going slowly to look in the mirrors. We had a lot of issues this morning in practice with cars tripping up other cars and lots of hand signals going on.
So Stefan Sarazan has gone fastest in the first sector, and Jarno Trulli and Stefan Sarazan both appear to be in a little bit of trouble. So
have they come together?
Potentially. They have both pulled off, and Jarno Trulli not very happy, and the Dragon team disappointed as well there.
There was a load of fluid, it looked like. It must be obviously gearbox oil coming out of the back of one of the cars.
They were running together. Well, here comes, so now we're seeing Sarazan.
Something's already happening.
Yeah. He's got a problem, isn't he? Because he's pointing that car to the left just to keep it in a straight line. And he pulls off the circuit. And so, okay, so they
is that a no?
No, I think that's just a mark on the circuit. So Trulli must have had a separate incident.
But that is definitely some fluid of some description coming from the gearbox, I'd say.
Okay, so
there we go.
That is a curious incident. So I'm not quite sure how Jarno's ended up down there as well. He may have collected the wall somewhere else out there on the circuit, but these are the challenges encountered in a street circuit. So it's still Karun Chandok who's the quickest man out there. And here's a replay of Trulli at turn 8. Oh, and he gets up on the curb, and that really takes out the left rear and the rear wing.
They're going to be running short of rear wings here, because Michele Ceruti did the same thing this morning, took the rear wing off the car.
Absolutely, so that's not good news for the Trulli team. And I wonder if Sarazan has had a similar issue and pulled off down the escape road as well. So very interesting times in the first qualifying group. There is Michele Ceruti, currently third quickest, and she's on her slow lap. We've got no yellow flags down there because the cars are well off in the runoff area. You can see her trying to get some heat into the tyres.
Yeah, good news there's no yellows, because then we can actually have a bit of a shootout here last lap. Karun's just gone quickest in section 1.
Yeah, but 36.4 for Chandok. Here he is, appearing into the bus stop chicane and then going out really close to the barriers as he comes down towards turn 14. The left-hander that takes them out onto Huqing Road. That's where Trulli is parked down to the right-hand side. Now he's onto Huqing Road, coming through the tree-lined part of the circuit. We'll see what his middle sector is like. His first sector is very good as he flashes past. We go on board on the way down to the Huichong chicane.
I almost wonder if you could do a track distance thing through that big long left-hander there, if they could use the inside line a bit more and cut the track distance and gain a little bit of time. But
here's Chandok into the penultimate corner.
Quickest again in sector 2, so looking not bad.
Yep, he is the man that's quickest so far, a 43.531. We'll see as he comes into the final corner now. Gets the car slowed, gets it tucked in nicely. Let's see what sort of lap time he can do, Karun Chandok. The 41s is the best times we've seen so far today, and it's a 42.461 for Karun Chandok across the line.
And Servia's quicker again in sector 1 here, so let's see what he's got.
Yep, and Chandok's fastest time so far today, that is it, a 42.4. That's the quickest he's been so far here in Beijing. But here is Oriol Servia. the Spaniard flashing past down towards the Huijing chicane, and that's a big lock-up with the left front. He still manages to get it in, though. That was good work.
Yeah, nice work there, because that's always that question of if I turn it in here, am I going to end up in trouble? Lost 3/10 through sector 2, so not a great middle sector for him there.
Throwing it through turn 19. He's going to be there or thereabouts with Chanduk, and Michaela Cerruti has had a difficult middle sector as well, so I don't think she's going to necessarily improve on her time too much. Here's Serbia into the final corner, turn 20 on this 3.5-kilometer Beijing street circuit. Serbia, the experienced IndyCar racer, comes across the line. Does he go quicker than Chanduk? No, he doesn't. 0.4 of a second slower, and he will finish this session second quickest. Michaela Cerruti now into the final turn to complete her 10-minute run. Her middle sector hasn't been that strong, and in fact she may well have backed off across the line. She comes a 46.254, so that's slower than her first run, and she is third quickest in that session. But
she's having a difficult session there, didn't she, really?
Yeah, well, she didn't get much running in that second free practice session because she only had one car to work with. But a big thing for, and here we're going to watch the replay of Serbia.
Just as soon as he touched the brakes there, locked it up. They're finding problems controlling the brake temperature, which with a carbon brake, as the Formula E car runs, is critical. But there's no blanking, so there's no way for them to control it. And the teams are sort of are not very happy with that, I'd say. They want some kind of control so they can keep the temperature in the operating zone. And as the brakes get hotter throughout the race, they change as well.
The checkered flag falls here in the first qualifying session of 4. There's Ho Pin Tung getting ready because he's out in the second qualifying session in a few moments' time. In about 2 or 3 minutes, we'll get Group 2 underway. So Karun Chanduk is the man to beat, a 1 minute 42.461. I think by the end of the session, we'll be seeing times maybe a second, maybe more quicker than that, as Ho Pin Tung climbs into his China racing machine as they still work on the other one. And there we can see the fans who have come out to watch over the start-finish line, which is going to be a very entertaining place to watch. It's turned into a very lovely day here in Beijing. The sun's really come out. So Karun Chanduk quickest in that first group in qualifying. Only 5 cars went out, but only 3 managed to set a lap time after Jarno Trulli and Stefan Sarazan had a challenging moment and both went into the wall, we think, at turn 8. But it's Chanduk quickest, Oriol Serbia second quickest, and Michaela Cerruti third quickest after the first group of qualifying here in Beijing. A wonderful sight, a wonderful location, and you're never quite sure what it's going to look like until you arrive, but the moment you turn up, it's wow, it's a really impressive venue. As we now move on to the second group of qualifying, it will be Sam Bird for Virgin. It'll be that man there, Charles Pic for Andretti. Jerome D'Ambrosio will go out for Dragon. Takuma Sato for Amna Naguri, and Ho Pin Tung for Team China Racing. So Sam Bird and D'Ambrosio, and actually Ho Pin Tung after his performance in free practice, they're probably the 3 to watch out for. Takuma Sato, a quick racer, but Amna Naguri haven't quite got it together so far, and Charles Pic as well, ex-Formula 1 racer. He knows what he's doing, Andretti know what they're doing, so it's another strong group of drivers. Yeah,
it is a strong group. I think Charles Pic seems a little bit behind, just maybe lack of experience, and as you say with Takuma, I don't think they've quite got a hang on the car yet. So the other guys though, I think particularly Sam Bird is going to be looking strong in this group.
Jerome D'Ambrosio was very impressive in the testing sessions that we had at Donington Park in the previous few months. After his brief spell in Formula 1, he's now a Bentley GT factory driver, racing in the Blancpain Endurance Series, as we there see the Virgin crew heading out onto the circuit shortly with Sam Bird at the wheel. This is a horseshoe pit lane, so this is the first side of the pit lane, and then they loop around the E-Motion Club, the VIP area, in the middle of the pit lane, and then out onto the circuit. And there is Sam Bird, runner-up in GP2 last season. Very impressive young driver.
Yeah, absolutely, great little driver. Good-looking car too, isn't it? The Virgin car, just very distinctive, but really well done.
Great to have Virgin in the championship. There is Jerome D'Ambrosio in the Dragon team. Pit lane will be open in about 20 seconds' time, and D'Ambrosio will head out onto the circuit. And so we did see in that session, as we thought, two hot laps is the is the thing to do as they put down a little bit of cement dust on the oil that you spotted, Dario.
You wouldn't think with an electric car you're going to get fluid, but then obviously they didn't take into account the gearbox.
No, absolutely. There's not the same sort of oil as to be experienced in an internal combustion engine car.
No.
And they've just done the main bit in the sort of braking zone for the corner.
They could really do with giving that a good old brush, I think, as well to clean it up. You don't want to be hitting that.
So the car's queued up in the pit lane. There is Takuma Sato in the Amna Naguri car. He and Catherine Legg piloting that machine this weekend.
Looks like he's on new tyres there. They said there was a small advantage to be gained with a new set of tyres, so I presume everybody's bolted their second set of new tyres on.
And once that advantage is gone, the tyres are then pretty consistent throughout, aren't they? They are both, you can use the tyres in both wet and dry conditions, which is something hopefully we won't experience this weekend, but I'm sure at some point during the season we'll get a bit of rain, and the point is you can stay out on these tyres, because on your road car at home you don't have to come into the pits and put some wets on when the rain comes. Maybe you do in some of the cars you have, Dario. but
I never drive them in the wet.
So that's one different element with the 18-inch Michelin tyres, as we see Ho Pin Tung getting ready to head out onto the track, and hopefully he can put in a good qualifying performance, because it would be great to have him towards the front of the grid for the race this afternoon.
I think the pace is there, absolutely. It's just whether the crash this morning has knocked his confidence at all. But absolutely, he'll be ready to go there. Go back to tyres for a second. Yeah, very clear that the Michelin tyre has been super consistent once it has that small drop off from you, and that's. I think we might get the rain in Malaysia. I think we could put a bet on that.
Well, we'll see what happens. Let's go and hear from Karun Chandok, the quickest man after that first group.
Karun, congratulations, fastest on the track so far in qualifying, but is it going to be enough for pole position?
No, I don't think so. I mean, first of all, we're in the first group, so I'll be amazed if, the track evolution, obviously on a street circuit, is going to be great for the guys later on. So, a bit unlucky to be in the first group, to be honest. Yeah, we're quickest at the moment, but I think I'd be surprised if we hang on to be in the top 10. I'll be delighted if we can get in the top 8, to be honest, with that time. It wasn't, the car's not been brilliant in that session. We need to have a look at the data. So I've not been as happy as Bruno has today. There's a few things we need to change on my car. So we see what happens in the race, but it was a safe lap, nothing dramatic, just wanted to close the lap and be safe.
Good luck for the race, thank you.
So Karun Chandok, the quickest man in Group 1, and now we are into Group 2. We've got Takuma Sato there on the right-hand side by side with Charles Pic in the blue and white Andretti car. There's Ho Pin Tung in the red Team China machine coming down towards the chicane at 3, 4 and 5. And then behind him, Jerome D'Ambrosio in the Dragon Team car as they now wind through the chicane. And D'Ambrosio, very impressive young driver, as are a large amount of the field. Takuma Sato, maybe not a young driver anymore, but still an impressive guy. And here's the sort of big bump that we're talking about, and you can see where it's sort of the cars are almost wearing away at the track now there, where there is that step up, then through this very slim section of circuit.
So tight there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to get interesting there in the race if somebody starts slowing down a little bit. But this corner here is deceptively quick, how it opens up on exit. The next two corners actually are fairly quick, 14 and 19.
There is Charles Pic, the Frenchman, who was confirmed relatively late for his Andretti drive, so not quite as settled into the team as Frank Montani, who's been, he's driven with the team before, and also he was confirmed as their Formula E driver quite a few months ago now. And how much of an impact does that play if you're settled into a team nice and early as opposed to a sort of last-minute deal?
I think in any situation it would cause an issue, but in this situation when you're learning all this new stuff, you're learning the electric powertrain, the different type of tyres, a whole new situation, it's really going to affect you.
Nelson Piquet Jr., the teammate of Ho Pin Tung, watching on in the pit lane as the cars weave around, getting ready now to turn it up to maximum power and attack this 3.5 kilometer Beijing street circuit. Charles Pic will be the first man, then it'll be him, Takuma Sato, coming through the final corner. And he boots it out of the final corner and comes across the line. And let's see what Group 2 have here. They'll probably get 2 flying laps out of this as Sato turns into the first corner, getting up nice and close to the wall on the exit. Now into the left-hander of turn 2, which takes them off Anseong Road and out onto Tianchen West Road, up towards the first of the chicanes.
Sato's pretty good at pulling a lap out in qualifying.
Here he comes, winding his way through the first of the tight chicanes. But as we say, all the chicanes are just a bit different. There's different challenges to all of them.
Yeah, exactly. The chicanes aren't necessarily evil, and the track designers have done a good job just making them all a little bit different.
Oh, and there's a big moment for Sato, so close to clipping the wall. Just got his front left wheel up on that exit curb, and he was very close to, well, doing a truly, I suppose.
That was nearly big.
Yeah, exactly. But he kept it all together. Let's see what sort of sector times we've got. The first sector for Takuma Sato is a 36.7. There we go. So he's similar to Jerome D'Ambrosio. In fact, they've done identical first sector times. Although it looks as though D'Ambrosio is probably locked up going into the first corner there, because there was all sorts of smoke coming off the tyres. And now out towards the penultimate corner, it's Charles Pic who's locked up and has now backed off. And that's one of the things we'll see a lot of. Right on the
line.
Yeah, could have helped Sato a bit more. And again, he was so close to the wall, Takuma Sato, on the exit of 19.
He's not leaving much on the table, is he?
Down towards the final corner then. The quickest time we've had so far, 1 minute 42.461. Takuma Sato is going to be the first man across the line in Group 2. Let's see. No, he's quite a way off, isn't he? Across the line, a 1 minute 44.129. May have lost a bit of time behind Charles Pic. Here comes Hopin Tung into the final corner, turn number 20. Hooks it up, takes a lot of the curb on the inside line. And across the line he comes again. Is going to be a relatively slow time, a 45.282.
It's a bit of a surprise, isn't it?
How much do you think, because they've got that cement dust down at turn 14, how much of a difference do you think that might make?
That's just what I was thinking there. Let's see what Sam does. You know, he's now on a lap, so we'll see if he's got anything there at the last corner.
On board we go in the nose cam with Sam Bird. Again, it's not really going to challenge the time set by Karun Chandok. Across the line, 0.4 of a second slower. But they'll go around and get another sighting lap in and then get a second attempt at going for pole position.
Over 4 minutes to go, so you've still got that time to do that, cool everything down and try and go again. If that oil is still down there, it will eventually, they'll get rid of it, you know, but unfortunately for these guys, probably right in time for Group 3.
Here's a look at Hopin Tung coming up into the first chicane. Oh, that's why he wasn't particularly quick, potentially. A big lock-up. He dealt with it okay.
It wasn't bad, was it? I think it looked worse than it was. The car didn't really move out in line, but look how close Takuma comes to losing it. Wow. he hit the apex curb, which knocked him wide, so he hit the exit curb even worse, and just managed to keep it out of the wall. I'm sure the mechanics were having a wee sigh of relief there.
Absolutely. Let's work for them if Takuma can keep it out of the wall. Here's now Charles Pic, who hasn't set a representative lap time. And the reason they're all cruising around is they're slowing down to save their energy up for a second attack. Because the cooler the battery and power unit are, the more potent they'll be. That's why they don't do sort of a back-to-back run, because the engine and powertrain and battery will start to lose some of its power. So you cool it down and get going again, and that's the best way to run these qualifying sessions. As Charles Pic comes through the penultimate corner, he's yet to set anywhere near a representative lap time.
I think that's typical of any racing team, though. They figure these things out pretty quickly, don't they? It's like, yeah, this is the most efficient way to do this, and off they go, which is why, especially a series like Formula E, the best way to develop electric cars is by racing.
Into the final quarter then comes Pic, who gets on the power and heads across the line now to have a second attempt. I think it was that lock-up into the Huichong chicane that cost him on his first lap. Comes down into the first corner. Very neat and tidy.
Nice and committed to the entry.
Now into turn 2. You can hear that, getting nice and close to the wall on the exit there as he moves out onto Tianchen West. Into the first chicane.
Very tidy.
Let's see what the sector time is, though, for Peak. The first sector is after turn 6 and just before this next chicane we've got coming up here. So 36.445, the best first sector so far. And he's 2/10 up, so this is looking good for Peak. Very neat on the exit, as well as getting nice and close to the wall.
He was right on the limit of doing a Takuma there. Locked up just a little bit going in. They're keeping it nice and neat and tidy.
Now down towards turn 14. The left turn onto Hujing Road. We'll get his second sector split soon.
This is quite impressive, that first section, because he was a bit behind in free practice too there, and he's obviously had a good look at the data, see where Frank's making up the timing of the Andretti car, and put it to good use.
Much neater through the Huichong chicane that time around, just 2 corners to go.
Lost a wee bit of time in the middle sector, but still ahead of the game.
33.6 in that middle sector as he comes out of the penultimate corner, down towards turn 20 then for Charles Pic. Sam Bird has just crossed the line to start his flying lap. D'Ambrosio, Sato and Hopin Tung are all on reasonably quick laps too, but no one as quick as Charles Pic at the moment. Here he comes across the line. Is this going to move him to the top of the times? No, only second. 2.5 tenths slower than Karun Chandok. There's Michael Andretti and Frank Montani behind, Matthew Brabham as well watching on as Sato comes now across the line. Is there going to be any improvement from him? No, he remains in 6th place. Yellow flags are out, so perhaps a drama somewhere. But Takuma Sato comes across the line and doesn't improve. Now, here comes Jerome D'Ambrosio. Personal best in the first sector. The middle sector is actually about a second or so down on Charles Pic, so this isn't going to be a great lap from Jerome D'Ambrosio, and we're learning just how vital it is. I mean, Chandok just said, oh, there's no way I'll be in the top 10 with this, but at the end of this session, he will be in the top 10 if it stays like this.
Yeah, he's looking quite good here. Surprised that Sam Bird hasn't gone quicker. First section was not good. Maybe he's the yellow. I don't... he's been in that first section for quite a while.
We'll keep an eye on him. No, he's just come through the middle sector, Sam Bird. D'Ambrosio crosses the line, remains in 5th place. Hopin Tung is out there on a lap, and it's a very slow lap, I think, for Hopin Tung. Sam Bird's lap is okay. The first sector's not splendid. The middle sector is a personal best. Let's see what he's got in the final sector. Down under the pedestrian bridge towards the final corner on the circuit. The left-hander double locker, which we saw him do in free practice earlier on. Not too much time lost there, though, as he comes across the line to take the checker flag. Is this going to be improvement from Sam Bird? 4th place for the Englishman. Half a second off Karun Chandok's time. So that, I think, concludes our running in this second group. Yes, it does. No one else out there on a lap. So Chandok remains quickest.
He'll be... Sam Bird will be disappointed with that. Karun will not. As you said, he thought if he got in the top 10, he'd be quite happy, but...
Whoa, there's what went wrong for Hopin Tung.
Must have been thinking, oh no, yeah. Not another car.
Here I go again. And oh, this will be quite a nice little view as he tries to opposite lock it. Round she goes. And maybe that affected some of the other cars approaching a yellow flag zone or something like that. But Karun Chandok is the quickest man. Charles Pic, second quickest.
2.8 seconds off there with Hopin Tung. So yeah, something's clearly not right because he was P3 this morning.
So Hopin Tung making his way back, 7th quickest. Michele Chiruti 8th quickest at the moment, and then Jarno Trulli and Stefan Sarazan failed to set a lap time. And it shows that in these sorts of qualifying sessions the pressure is on and you've got to get the lap times done. And there's a very happy man with his lunch, I imagine.
I think what we're seeing here is that a lot of the guys, the drivers and mechanics, everybody eating their lunch because it's such a tight schedule. There's no time to go away and chill out, and you do all the normal things you would do on a race weekend. You've got to eat on the run, and you know, there's not a lot of time after qualifying for the race to start, and there's all the briefings and all kinds of things that the drivers will have to attend, and strategy meetings, and it's a very busy day.
There's the Formula EJ entertaining the crowds on this very busy day. And as you say, it's only 3 hours between the checkered flag of qualifying and the green flag at the start of the race. So it really is a tight turnaround. But it gives those guys plenty of action to watch out for as they get ready for the race later on today. So that concludes Group 2. And Karun Chandok remains quickest after the second group here in qualifying for the Formula E first round in Beijing. Charles Pic second quickest, but the quickest man in that second group, Oriol Servia, now 3rd quickest, 4th is Sam Bird, 5th is Jerome D'Ambrosio, 6th Takuma Sato. Hoping Tung will be disappointed down in 7th place, and Jaime Alguersuari and Jarno Trulli and Stefan Sarazan didn't complete their runs. So the second group of cars about to head out, and what a strong group of cars it is. Sebastian Buemi and Lucas Di Grassi, perhaps the two favourites, I think it's fair to say, are going to be out in the group together. Nico Prost, Sebastian Buemi's teammate, out there as well. In fact, it's going to be both of the Edam's cars and both of the Apt cars out there, with Catherine Legg joining in the fun as well for Amlin Aguri. So we could well get our pole sitter from this session.
I agreed, yeah. Though I still think there's an advantage to run at the end, especially with that fluid going down earlier.
Yeah, that's almost made it more important to get out at the end of the race. There is Takuma Sato, just in the FIA weighbridge. Carlos Funes over there doing the honours for the FIA. And the pit lane will be opening in about 20 seconds time for Group 3. It'll be Nico Prost and Sebastian Buemi for Edams, Di Grassi and Apt for Apt, and Catherine Legg out there for Amlin Aguri. There is Daniel Apt, ready to head out as the pit lane is now open. The session starts, and Daniel Apt pulls out of the pits in the Apt car that was originally all red, but they got some Brazilian backing, so the back of the car is now yellow. And there is Frenchman Charles Pic, second quickest man in that session so far. And I think he'll be pretty satisfied with how that's gone, because we've got 10 cars to go, so sort of worst case scenario is 12th on the grid, as it looks like the cars are going to be going out in 2x2s. There's the two Apt cars, a very successful team with 5 DTM team titles under their belt, and the Edams team with I don't know how many junior single-seater championships, an awful lot.
Currently Formula 3000 to GP2, exactly. Wow, a lot.
So out onto the circuit come some of our big guns in FIA Formula E. The first car there is Lucas Di Grassi. He has got the sort of fluorescent yellow Brazilian coloured helmet. Daniel Apt is in the white helmet in the two Apt cars. Catherine Legg in the iridescent blue Amlin Aguri. And then as far as the Edams guys are concerned, it's Nico Prost in the blue helmet and Sebastian Buemi in the white helmet with the Swiss flag on top. The two of them working hard to get their tyres up to temperature.
You would say, looking at the testing in Donington, that the Edams guys had an advantage. They were a little ahead of the game, maybe better prepared than the other teams. This weekend it's tightened up, or today it's tightened up absolutely, and there's a lot more players in the running for a win.
Through the bus stop chicane comes Catherine Legg. Really great shot that he gets so close to the action as they make their way down now towards turn 14. Just going as slow as is reasonably possible. I imagine they'll have been given a bit of a delta time to which they've got to run these slow laps in order to finish their second flying lap at the optimum time.
You're probably right, but they also have to heat the tyres up and the brakes. It's pointless having all this power, and the first time you go to the corner, touch the brakes, it locks all 4 wheels and sends you off. So there's a sweet spot there that they'll be looking for. And they're running pretty close together. We're getting close to the end of the lap here, and they're all still running fairly close together. I'd want a bigger gap already than that, so I could start to heat the tyres leading into the qualifying lap, rather than heat them at the start of the lap and then spend the end of the lap trying to gap and cooling them down again.
So there's Lucas Di Grassi. He's going to be the first man to go for it in this qualifying session. And equally on a circuit like this where we've seen mistakes, if you're just 5 or 6 car lengths behind a guy in front, he goes into the wall, you're straight involved in their accident.
You are, absolutely, and it also affects your sight lines. You want a clear view ahead of you to get the absolute best out of it. Here goes Lucas starting his lap. This is interesting to see what he can do.
So here comes Di Grassi across the line, down towards turn 1, the 90-degree right-hander. He'll have turned his car up to full power and will be going for it, trying to claim pole position for the first ever E-Prix here in Beijing. Nice and close to the walls, but still nice and controlled as well. Daniel Apt did give a bit of space. Catherine Legg's pretty close to the back of Daniel Apt, but the Amlin car hasn't been quite as on it as the Apt car, so maybe that's an advantage for her to follow Daniel and try and learn something.
Yeah, maybe that's the mindset. They're just seeing where he's gaining time, and relay that back to the engineers after qualifying.
Through the chicane comes Di Grassi, and he is already up in that first sector.
Really good first sector there, yeah.
Down into the bus stop chicane, flashing out and down towards the left-hander of turn 14. The left-hand turn onto Huqing Road. The Brazilian hooks it up very nicely. It's also neat, isn't it, as he comes out onto the back straight now.
You can't discount that momentum, especially with a car with the power levels of the Formula E car. You can't discount it just when you start it rolling and it just builds up over the lap.
Really neat and tidy again through the Huichong chicane.
Nice middle sector there by Lucas.
33.4, the fastest middle sector of anyone in this qualifying session so far. So this is going to put him, if not to the top, very near to the top, as he's only got one more corner to complete. Lucas Di Grassi coming down towards the left-hander of turn 20, on the brakes. Turns into the left, gets the curve up nicely, the back end stepping out beautifully as he comes across the line. What's this going to be for Di Grassi across the line? It's a 42.308, so a tenth and a half quicker than Karun Chandler. Daniel Abt goes 6th quickest, and Catherine Legg comes across the line in a moment to go 10th quickest. But still, only a tenth and a half between Di Grassi and Chandler.
Karun's got to be feeling pretty good about life right now and slightly surprised. That was his time's holding up quite well.
Here comes Buemi across the line, but it's actually his teammate Nico Prost who's the quickest man of anyone in the middle sector. So Buemi comes across the line and only goes 4th quickest, but Nico Prost is out there on the circuit about to come across the line. There he goes, and goes quickest. A 1:42.2 for Nico Prost. He jumps to the top of the timing screens for the time being. Now they'll all chill out, get their heads back into gear and get the batteries to the right temperature, get the charge up, and
cool
then go for it again.
Down. Yeah. I mean, everybody's been focusing on Sebastian Buemi in the EDAMS team, and then there you go, teammate Nicola Prost just sneaks one in there. So that just shows you.
Won in LMP2 at Le Mans this year, Nico Prost, and he has gone fastest of anyone so far. He was also the Lotus Formula 1 test driver for a number of years, as the cars now start their cool down before they get back on it again, and wouldn't be surprised to see an improvement from these guys now they've got their sort of eye in, as it were, and can afford to push a little bit more, especially, you know, a Nico Prost. You might as well push more, but then you've still got the race coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if there is a slight drop off in the power on that second lap. As you say, you've got your eye in, so you're feeling a bit braver. You've got more of an idea where you can gain an advantage, but you might be dropping off in terms of tyre performance and also you know, energy and the engine power. So,
It'll be interesting to see what transpires. We'll find out in the next 3.5 minutes, because this is Lucas Di Grassi.
And ultimately, to do these 2 laps, it's taken them the full 10 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you've got the warm-up lap, the cool-down lap, and yeah, they're using it all of the time.
There are the standings at the moment then. Nico Prost just over a tenth of a second quicker than Lucas Di Grassi in the Abt car. Karun Chandler 3rd quickest at the moment. He was out in the first session. Of those you can see on the screen, it's Prost, Di Grassi and Buemi who are out on track at the time being. Daniel Abt there in 8th place is out on track, as is Catherine Legg in 12th position. So they're the drivers that can improve in this session. And again, Legg's gone right up to the back of, she's just eased off now from the back of Daniel Abt, but again she was closing in and getting a little closer to the back of the German's car. But here they come down towards the final corner at turn 20, where they'll go for it again. You can see just in the background there the traffic and the fans that have congregated at the exit of turn 19. A great place to watch as well, because it's a pretty entertaining corner, that, as they get ready to go for it once more. Lucas Di Grassi turns into the left-hander, turns it up to full power, and heads out onto the circuit again. This will be the last chance for these guys in qualifying ahead of the first Formula E race here in Beijing. Lucas Di Grassi into turn 1. Nice and close there with the barriers.
You can almost see the rear weight distribution when he comes up and brakes and he starts to turn in. You can see the rear sort of penduluming round that as much as with the heavy batteries and the motor. That's why you're seeing that sort of pendulum effect as they turn in there. Much different feeling in the normal racing car, the boys were saying.
Out through the first chicane. Now to turn 6. This is the Trulli chicane, should we call it, where he clipped the barriers there on the outside, and Di Grassi is seems to be trying to cut it a lot less. Some of the guys, you know, the reason Trulli and Sato got in trouble because they were trying to straight line it so much. And it's Daniel Abt who set the fastest first sector of anyone. So it's the second of the two Abt cars that is the quickest on the circuit at the moment, as Di Grassi turns out through the left-hander.
Quite an advantage. It's 3/10 through the first segment.
Yeah, that is very, very quick in sector 1 for Daniel Abt. Let's pick him up now as he comes through the left-hander down towards the Quay Chong chicane. Here he comes, and let's see what sort of time he's got. Di Grassi is up after the second sector. Is Daniel Abt up as he comes under brakes? He's half a second up on Nico Prost's time, so Daniel Abt is looking strong, but Nico Prost has just done the fastest first sector of anyone, so this is really all to play for in this third group of qualifying. We've still got 5 more drivers to come, the likes of Alguersuari and Senna and Heidfeld, Montani and Piquet, but at the moment, it's Daniel Abt who's on a mission. Here comes Di Grassi across the line. Any improvement from him? Yes, but he remains in second position. On board with Daniel Abt through the final corner. This is going to see us going into the 41s, surely, as Abt comes across the line. A 42.4, so that final sector was not good. He lost a good 0.8 of a second in that final sector. So that means the door has opened up for Nico Prost to extend his advantage, but he's locked his left front. Can he get it stopped? No. And is he heading for the wall? Yes. Nico Prost, furious because he was looking so quick out there, and he is still the quickest man, but he could have had more of an advantage.
Oh, Buemi's got
Buemi's off as well. So Buemi in trouble as well. So both of the EDAM cars are out in this third group of qualifying. Prost has got himself going, but Buemi, that looks more like a stop rather than an accident, but, well,
Prost just tried to take a little more there in the braking zone, a little more, get off the brakes a bit early, and it just caught him out. And yeah, that's the tightrope these guys walk. And but he's still right now P1.
Yeah,
track looks like it's picking up a wee bit of speed again.
So Prost, despite that, will still be the quickest man of anyone. Daniel Abt will be furious whatever happened to him in that final sector, because he was looking set. And it's so intense when it comes down to this sort of one-lap qualifying, when you've only done 20 laps or so around the circuit. And of those, because we must, well, here's a look at the replay of Nico Prost, Dario.
You just see that it just initially starts to bounce in front of the car a little bit. And yeah, just carried a little bit too much. He's not happy, is he? He just carried a little bit too much in there, a little bit too deep on the brakes, and you see it start to bounce, and that's it all over. But all that much lock on while trying to brake is not gonna help. You almost want to straighten the wheel up a little bit and head down the escape road. When you've made that big a kind of a mistake, it's maybe discretion's a better part of valor, and it's time to back out, and your lap's done anyway. But it doesn't. He might have got away without damaging the front wing there.
And with only 5 drivers left to run, the lowest he will start in the race is 6th position. So it's not too disastrous a moment for Nico Prost. Still the quickest man in that third group in qualifying.
But a driver's brain doesn't work that way, does it? He's going to be furious on missing out on that at the end of that lap there.
Di Grassi as well was expecting a little more from him, because Daniel Abt was on it until that he was half a second up, wasn't he, going into the final sector. Nico Prost was looking very strong as well. But
I'd love to know what happened to Lucas there. And I think it'll help us understand the car and the tyres a little bit more if he gives a sort of an honest answer. And maybe we're going to have a little word later on to understand what is the difference there between just the ultimate performance.
So the car's pulling back into the pit lane. Sebastian Buemi out of that session at the end. But it's Nico Prost who is the quickest man now and on provisional pole position here in Beijing. But we've still got the 4th group to go, the final 5 drivers to run. But Prost is on provisional pole at the moment. Di Grassi and Abt 2nd and 3rd for Abt. Karun Chandok now drops to 4th with Charles Piquet in 5th. Buemi, Servia, Bird, D'Ambrosio and Takuma Sato completing the provisional top 10 at the moment with 1 session left to go.
So we've got Prost on provisional pole right now, and Senna going out to try and knock him off.
Absolutely. Good old days, isn't it? There is Ho Pin Tung currently in 11th spot, Catherine Legg 12th, Michaela Cerruti 13th, and we had Jarno Trulli and Stefan Sarazan not completing their laps, so they will be at the back of the grid. The Linglong Tower there on the right-hand side, built to act as a landmark of these 2008 Beijing Games, and there is the aquatic centre. Here's a look at a replay of Sebastian Buemi. Oh, and he gets up and he hits the rear left, so it certainly wasn't a technical problem for Sebastian Buemi. That was a Sato Trulli jobby.
I think he's going to have a technical problem when he goes back to the garage and explains that he's actually crashed the other car too.
Oh yeah, of course, because he crashed the first one in free practice too. So Sebastian Buemi at the same corner.
Yeah, you might want to turn it down a little bit.
Yeah, he did the front left of that corner in free practice too. He's done the rear left in qualifying, so that is a challenge. Now we're on to our final group of drivers. The session has started. Nelson Piquet Jr., a thumbs up from him in the Team China car. He heads out onto the circuit. It'll be him, Jaime Alguersuari for Virgin Racing, Bruno Senna there for Mahindra, Nick Heidfeld for Venturi, and Frank Montani for Andretti. There is Montani heading out onto the track now, and I'd say Montani's a bit of maybe a dark horse for a pole position here with the sort of lap times we've seen. I think with that Andretti car and Montani's experience, I think he could be well in with a shout here.
Yeah, let's see how well the Andretti guys have figured this car out, because Frank's obviously got the ability to do it, and he's just got enough swagger to put a lap in there.
I want him to get pole just so Nicky will have to interview him again. It's always entertaining.
With his expressive answers.
Yeah, exactly. There is Nelson Piquet Jr. then out onto the track, a man who has just done GT racing. He has done NASCAR, Rallycross, Formula One, you name it, Piquet's done it. Montani's under investigation, maybe for leaving too soon.
I think he crossed the white line on the pit exit.
Okay, so and also the fast lane in the pits apparently. So
oh, really? These FIA boys take that stuff seriously, don't they?
We're on board with Jaime Alguersuari as he comes into the first chicane. The Spaniard, youngest ever Formula One driver when he made his debut in 2009. Into the left-hander at turn 6. You can hear them, so they're trying to put a bit of power in and then slow the car. They're not just cruising around at one speed for the whole lap.
They're probably trying to put some heat into the rear tyre there, find the best way to build that heat, because there's different theories behind how you do that properly, and each tyre requires something a little bit different. So obviously they don't want to use all the power though, heating up the tyres. So it's yeah, they're just learning, I would say, all the time.
Nick Heidfeld weaving his way down towards the chicane that caught out Sebastian Buemi twice, and hopefully Quick Nick won't be suffering the same fate.
I think that chicane is definitely winning the battle so far, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh-oh.
And this isn't good news for Bruno Senna. The powertrain cover off at the back of the car, putting it back on now at least, but this may restrict him to just one flying lap. And the interesting thing is here that, okay, they've got two cars, but they set up one for the race and set up the other for qualifying, so he can't really just hop, and maybe the other one's not even fully charged yet, so he can't just hop out of one and get into the other car so easily.
Exactly, not like a spare car, is it really?
So here comes Frank Montani out of the final corner, and across the line he comes to start his flying lap in the Andretti car. Gets it into the first right-hander. You can really see the resistance as they come through. They're really having to work hard to keep the car pointing in to the left-hander.
Yeah, no power steering, so there's a wee bit of kickback, but these guys will be used to it with a lot less loads probably than they're used to.
Oh, double lock-up on the front there for Montani. He has to
that's
abandon
not going to work, Frank.
So he will now slow right down and try and save all his energy for a second attempt. He may... It's early on in the... There isn't actually that much time left. I was going to say it's early on enough in the lap to maybe get have enough energy for a second one, but I don't think there's enough time, and he just couldn't quite get it in.
Nah, just braked a little bit late there, and the front right grabbed, and that was all she wrote.
On board with Nelson Piquet through the chicane, running nice and tight to the barriers on the exit, up towards turn 6 now. Oh, a lot of curve on the inside.
That was very nice.
Here's a look at the graphic on the right-hand side as he bounces his way through the chicane. He's in the grass, doesn't quite clip anything, I don't think, but he is pushing hard, Nelson Piquet Jr. You can see the gear he's in there on the right-hand side, as well as the amount of power he's using in that bar on the right, going all the way up to only 190 kilowatts. So I wonder if he's using slightly less on his first run to then have maximum power on the second, potentially.
Maybe. He's overdriving it a bit, though, I have to say. You know, he's just trying that little bit too hard, and finding the limit of this new tyre is going to be a challenge. Oh, bit lock on the rear there going in.
What sort of lap times has he done so far then, Nelson Piquet? 36.6 in the first sector, 8/10 off Nico Prost. The middle sector's 9/10 off, so we're looking at a sort of 43, somewhere in that region for Nelson Piquet, but we've seen him heading almost into the barriers on a couple of occasions. So here he comes towards the final corner, and oh, there's all out of shape, but that was maybe because the Andretti car was slowing in front of him, or was he far enough in front?
Nelson said that instead of using the regen paddle, he's got the thing regenning itself. He's got it set, so whenever he presses the brakes, it's doing all the regen on its own. And I think he might have just been a little aggressive with that setting there. Just locking the rears all the time.
Jaime Alguersuari, a 36.7 in sector 1, which isn't superb. The middle sector's okay, but again, this is only going to be good enough for sort of 5th to 8th, something like that, as he comes out onto the start-finish straight and across the line for Jaime Alguersuari. 9th. Not quite right, but 9th position for Jaime Alguersuari, and a front left lockup from Nick Heidfeld as he gets it into the final corner. These guys are really having to work hard as we have 4 minutes to go, so they'll come across the line, slow down, and then do another quick lap, and that is 5th for Nick Heidfeld in the Venturi car.
Not bad at all.
Into the first corner as he now slows right down.
Bit disappointing
his energy
by the Virgin cars. I expected more.
Is this where Piquet went in the grass here? Whoa! That's his rallycross experience.
He actually went around the back of the curb, if you notice. The big problem is if you go over it, he went around the back.
So, and then another lockup for Piquet. This was, well, that's the one we were on board with, and we didn't. You didn't see the fronts because we were on board, but
it locked the rears straight away, didn't it?
Yeah.
That was you could hear it.
You can hear that as well.
Right,
Frank Montani really pushing. He's done a 36.4 in the first sector, which is 6/10 down. The middle sector's pretty good. So, but again, the top 9 cars are covered by 7/10 of a second, so may not even be good enough for the top 10. This from Frank Montani. Across the line comes the Frenchman. Where's this going to put him? Oh, it's 5th place, so he really did a good final sector there.
Do you think he's got enough for the second lap? That's going to be the question, isn't it? Can he get one more lap?
He's slowing down, so that presumably suggests he's going to try and keep that energy, because he only did a quarter of that first attempt.
Yeah.
So he may well have a chance.
He's under investigation again.
There's Nelson Piquet. He's cruising around as he tries to gain from his current 12th position. It's still Nico Prost, the quickest man of anyone, of 42.2. De Grassi second quickest. Montani and Heidfeld in 5th and 6th positions at the moment. And 11th and 12th is Piquet. There is Piquet. He's still got to have one run. So has Jaime Alguersuari in the Virgin car, coming down towards the Quay Chong chicane. And there is Nelson Piquet coming into the final corner. And here he comes now to start his final flying lap. Nelson Piquet Jr. across the line. It's now or never for the Brazilian.
Yeah,
through the first corner.
Bit neater there through one.
Still working hard, isn't he, through every single corner, Nelson Piquet Jr. He was saying it's a quite straightforward track, but it's certainly testing him at the moment.
Oh, shortcutted there. I think the more straightforward the track, the more difficult it is to find an advantage on any of the your rivals there. So you can only find a little bit everywhere.
First sector, he's 4/10 up, but he's in the grass again.
Wow. He does like that line, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think that's 4/10 of a second up on his personal first sector. So
about 3/10 off the best, I think.
Yeah, as Piquet Jr. really works hard coming out of the bus stop chicane. Bruno Senna had to go back into the pits, and he's left the pits again, but he's not going to have enough time to do a lap, so Senna is not going to set a lap. It looks like they had real troubles with that Mahindra car, but let's stick with Piquet Jr. down into the Quay Chong chicane. Again, opposite lock on the application of the throttle. It's a
good middle sector too.
Yeah, so this is not looking too bad for Senna. This could put him up into the top 5 in the Team China car. Through 19, down towards turn 20.
So now we've got Piquet against Prost. It's like the old days.
Absolutely. And no one else on the circuit is really performing that strongly, unless Franck Montagny has just started a hot lap. Piquet takes a lot of curve on the inside line. Is this going to be good enough for the top 5 for Nelson Piquet? Across the line he comes. No. Wow. It's down in 9th place. That final sector really not working out for Piquet. And so now the only man out there is Jaime Alguersuari's out there. And his first sector is okay, 6/10 down on Nico Prost at the moment. As we go with the graphics up to 200 kilometers an hour under braking. Really having to just guide the car in as he brakes, and so close to the barrier there on the left-hand side.
He's just walking it in there, just on the edge of adhesion, and he's doing a nice job of it.
Into turn 19. What was his middle sector like? Jaime Alguersuari, not particularly strong. 3/10 off Nico Prost, so he's a good 9/10 of a second down at the moment as he comes over that jump and into the final corner. Straightens the car up. What's this going to do for Jaime Alguersuari? Currently 12th quickest. It won't be enough to stop Nico Prost on provisional pole position. It's 7th place for the Virgin car. Now, is Franck Montagny out there? Yes, he's only 2/10 of a second down in the first sector. Here's Nick Heidfeld as well. He's done not a half a second down in sector 1. His sector 2's pretty good, but I don't know if he'll be able to improve. He's currently 6th at the moment. The German comes across the line. Are we going to see an improvement? No, he remains in 6th place. So it's all down to Franck Montagny versus Nico Prost. Here comes Montagny, and he's locked up again the front left as he turns into the final corner. His middle sector is about half a second down, so it's not going to be enough for Franck Montagny. Across the line he comes. It's 5th place for him, and it's pole position for his compatriot Nico Prost. The first ever pole position in FIA Formula E goes to Nico Prost and the EDAMS team. Lucas de Grassi will start 2nd, Daniel Abt 3rd, but a really good run from Nico Prost.
Yeah, that was impressive. Good to see that. Well deserved.
Bruno Senna out there on the circuit, but he hasn't got enough time to set a lap, and even if he had, it wouldn't have gone particularly well there. There's no way he can. If he has taken the flag. Yes, he has taken the checkered flag, so there's nothing he can do.
He's probably just doing a little shakedown on the car, make sure it's working, that everything's okay, because he's going to obviously have to use it in the race at some point. So he'll be disappointed, though. I mean, he was so strong this morning, and not to be.
No, he's going to have to start, if not at the back. Well, there's 3 drivers that didn't complete a lap time, so he'll be 20th, 19th or 18th on the grid, depending on how the stewards decide it.
And he can win it from there. No doubt he can win it from there. With Michael and Kyle Moyer.
In the Andretti garage, Franck Montagny, a thumbs up. That was for us, was that for the camera?
That might have been. That was
very
impressive.
Nice of him, yeah. And so 5th on the grid for Franck Montagny. I think they'll be reasonably pleased with that. Karun Chandok said he'd be over the moon if he was inside the top 8, and he's going to be 4th on the grid.
Oh, he might even buy dinner. So Michael doesn't look very happy, though, does he?
No, he's got his cars 5th for Franck Montagny. And, well, Stefan Sarazan there.
5th and 8th for the Andretti cars. Not bad.
It's a pretty good performance, as we see Sarazan there waiting. But here is how the grid will line up for the first round of Formula E later on today. Nico Prost will start on pole position for EDAMS. Lucas de Grassi will be alongside him on the front row, with Daniel Abt 3rd on the grid. Karun Chandok will start in 4th for Mahindra, 5th for Franck Montagny and Andretti, 6th for Nick Heidfeld and the Venturi team. Alguersuari, Pique, Buemi and Piquet Jr. completing the top 10. Frustration for a lot of drivers, most notably perhaps Sebastian Buemi, to be down there in 9th place, but even more so those that didn't set a lap time, the likes of Bruno Senna. Sam Bird down in 12th position. We really expected more from Sam Bird, and in fact both of the Virgin cars, 7th and 12th for them, a difficult afternoon. Trulli, Senna and Sarazan not setting lap times, and they will be our 3 drivers that will head out at the back of the grid. So it'll be Nico Prost on pole position for the first ever Formula E. Ypres, we can hear from the poleman now. He's with Nicky Shields.
Nico Prost, a absolutely superb qualifying session. You're starting on pole position for the first ever Formula E race. You must be ecstatic.
It's a fantastic feeling, fantastic day. To be honest, I was so disappointed with myself. The first lap was very good, but the second one was flying, and I don't want to say a bad word, but I messed it up. I was really unhappy with myself, but it was enough. All the guys at Dams have been doing a fantastic job since the first day, you know. Even this morning, you know, my engineer, he moved the car, and I had a fantastic car in quali, so it's a fantastic feeling. I mean, I love the series. What they've been doing is really good, and it's just great to be on pole now.
And you're clearly pushing yourself to the absolute limit, seeing you lock up a couple of times with the regenerative braking. Are you going to master that for the race?
Yeah, I need to be careful because I pushed one a bit too much. But yeah, I mean, the race is a different story, but already to get pole position is fantastic. Now we have a bit of time to focus on the race.
Fantastic also to see the other drivers congratulating you. Now, the focus obviously turns to the race in a couple of hours, not much time to get prepared. What's your strategy going to be?
To stay inside the 28 kilowatts, I think, is the main problem for everyone. So yeah, I mean, we obviously the energy management is the key to the race. So I mean, I had a bit problem in FP2, so I could not really get so much laps on the race pace, but we'll figure it out.
Fantastic start to the championship. Well done, Nico.
So Nico Prost on pole position then, and the 28 kilowatts he was saying is the battery has a 30 kilowatt capacity, and they have the FIA in the rules have demanded that the teams only use 28 kilowatts of that in the same way that in Formula 1 you have to return with a bit of fuel left in the tank. It's pretty similar here. You can't run it to flat, and so it's judging that is a real challenge for the teams. There is Nelson Piquet Jr. walking back. He will start in a reasonably promising position on the grid, but let's now hear from Lucas de Grassi. He's with Nicky.
Fantastic result for you, and also Daniel Abt. What a brilliant result for the team. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it was a good qualifying session. We tried something different from free practice to improve the car, and I think we didn't really get to the level we wanted to be. But I'm very happy for myself to be on the first row. For my teammates that also are in the top three, we put both cars on top three. So for the first weekend, I think it's a very good result. The cars are safe, no crashes, no problems so far. So we keep our fingers crossed for a good race. Is what we need for this weekend. So
what action are we going to see on the start line?
Start. I think it's going to be good. I start on the inside. Let's see, the race is long, it will be more than 40-45 minutes, 25 laps, so there's a lot to happen.
There's a lot to focus on as well today, a lot to think about, practice, qualifying and race all in one day. Are you mentally prepared for that? Are you exhausted already?
It's a long day. We started at 6 a.m. We wake up and meetings and qualifying and decisions about setup for the race, setup for qualify. You have to make so many decisions. The important is to get a good amount of points, do a good job, push as hard as you can, work as hard as you can, and then when the day is over, for sure you'll have a very good night of sleep.
And some beautiful conditions here as well in Beijing. Good luck. Thanks, Lucas.
Yeah, the sun's really come out in Beijing. It's turned into a beautiful day here in the Chinese capital, and Lucas de Grassi will start second on the grid. And an impressive performance from him. All the drivers, I think, will be a little curious as to where the speed went, because the fastest time we saw in free practice was a 1 minute 41.6, 6 tenths of a second quicker than what we saw in the qualifying session. We can now hear from our third place man, Daniel Abt, Lucas de Grassi's teammate. He will start on the second row, and he's down with Nicky Shields.
Daniel, a fantastic result for you, absolutely brilliant qualifying session, and you've got Lucas ahead of you. What's going to happen on that start line?
First of all, I have to say I'm really happy to be up there. You know, it's a tough championship and so many good drivers, and to be in the top three, also with Lucas just in front of me, it's great for the team, for all the hard work we did, and for the race. I think we just have to keep our heads cool and just try to do the best and just manage it.
There's obviously a lot of pressure on you. You know, Daniel Abt, your father is also the team principal, but you really have kept your cool today. Are we going to see that in the race as well?
Yeah, I think this is the key point to the championship. I mean, it's so easy to crash here. So many drivers did mistakes, and I think both our cars are still in one piece, so that's good. And we just need to keep that up and focus for the race.
Everyone's been driving very close to those walls. There really is no room for manoeuvre. Nice to see. A friendly hug although it won't be so friendly on the track. What are you going to be focusing on for the race strategy?
Well, it's all about energy management, so I think it's just important to stay on track, to manage the energy, to be quick, of course. I want to take a podium. If you start up there, you want to finish up there, that's for sure. But for now, I just think it's important that we have a clean race, that we do our job, and then we see where we end up.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Daniel. Good luck.
Frank Montani coming in there, causing a little bit of trouble as ever, and it's Hans-Jürgen Abt, who's Daniel Apt's father, who is the man controlling the Abt team. And Daniel pretty much said I pretty much had no option but to become a racing driver, having been born into such a family. But it's Nico Prost on pole. Let's have a look at the highlights. So as everyone got prepared for the first group of qualifying, it was 4 groups out on circuit, 5 drivers in each. And in the first group, we had Karun Chandler, Oriol Servia, Jarno Trulli, Michele Ceruti and Stefan Sarazan. There was Ceruti getting into the car, not an ideal start to the weekend for her, and not an ideal start to qualifying for Oriol Servia, getting all locked up on the way down into the Huichong chicane, but he managed to keep it all together. Unlike Jarno Trulli, losing the back end as he bounced over the curbs and smacking into the concrete wall. Hopin Tung also made a couple of mistakes, which meant he didn't get the lap time he would have wanted. Takuma Sato was very, very close to hitting the wall as well, but he just kept it together in the second group of qualifying. Hopin Tung had his second spin of the day. This time he managed to not make any contact with the barriers, and so there was no damage on the Team China car. Charles Pic put in a strong performance. He was second quickest at the end of Group 2, and he ended up being 8th on the grid. And then Group 3, we thought our pole position cars would come from that group, and in fact it was the top 3 that came from the third group. It was De Grassi, Buemi, Prost, Abt and Legg, and it was Nico Prost who was the quickest man of anyone out on the circuit. He was going even quicker on his second timed run, but things didn't go according to plan when he got down to the left-hander of turn 19. He was purple in the first sector, a personal best in the middle sector, but a lockup in the final sector saw him just tapping the barriers, and he was frustrated with himself, but he has still ended up on pole position. Another view of that lockup, desperately trying to get the car turned in, but a harmless impact in the end with the barrier. Not so harmless was Sebastian Buemi, clouting the rear left of the car, and he will only start down in 9th place on the grid for the EDAMS team. Frank Montani will start 5th after he had to abort his first lap after a bit of a lockup, which concerned Michael Andretti just a little bit. Nelson Piquet Jr. put in a reasonably strong qualifying performance. He was all over the grass at various points, but he still managed to qualify his car in 10th position. Lucky to keep it out of the barriers at certain points on the circuit. Montani was still out there, still pushing and still struggling to get the nose of the car turned in without locking up. He did manage to in the end and qualified 5th on the grid. Bruno Senna got out onto the circuit, but he was unable to set a lap time after problems with the Mahindra. He'll start down in 19th place, but it's that man there, Nico Prost, who will start on pole. So, the conclusion of the qualifying session here in Beijing, and there is Nick Heidfeld, and he will start 6th on the grid. Now, Dario, it's all about the race, all about the first corner, and all about the first ever E-Prix.
First corner first, let's get through that first corner. As a driver, that's what you're going to be concentrating on, and then everybody's talked about energy management, and that's important, but you've got to be quick. So it's a combination of the two. You got the guys, the drivers are almost, it's a given, they've got to be fast. They know that, but what they're saying is, we've got to be fast, but we've got to look after the energy side of things too. Obviously, power's down from 270 horsepower equivalent down to 200 now, and I think we'll be in for a good race. I think it's going to get pretty exciting out there.
It's going to be very entertaining, there's no doubt about that. 25 laps of this 3.5 kilometer Beijing street circuit around the Olympic Park, the iconic venue here in Beijing, and those 25 laps will probably take around 40 to 45 minutes. At some point the drivers will have to come in and swap cars. Dario, who's your money on?
Tough one. I think Lucas looks very strong, and yeah, I think I'll go with Lucas.
Okay, we got there in the end, so make sure you join us for the first ever FIA Formula E race coming up later on this afternoon. We get underway at 4 o'clock local time is when the race starts. Myself, Dario Franchitti and Nikki Shields will be taking you through the first ever FIA Formula E race. Make sure you join us for us live from Beijing coming up later on, but it'll be Nico Prost on pole position.